Hey, so the floor has been mopped, the glassware has been cleaned, and just as I was restocking the bar, Jeff and Ryan pulled up. So back to the storage room for another case of scotch, another case of bourbon, gin, rum, tequila, rye. Hey, welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode number 206. 206. I can't believe that. Hey, anyway, the Mead House, you know where to find us all over the place. Actually, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon Music, and the list just goes on and on and on. You know where to find it. The front page of the website, that would be themeadhouse.com. Hey, in this episode, it's 110% social club tonight. We have a lot of fun. You know, we were just talking about this pre-show here, and I think you listeners out there, I'm hoping you're getting a kick out of this because you're getting three different perspectives on the same question oftentimes, and this isn't coming from any by any means any professional mead maker or brewer or anything of that sort. So you're getting three renditions or three answers of varying degrees of expertise and field of knowledge. So I think it's pretty cool. We got a bunch of them here tonight to get through. But first, and of course, this is where we try to answer your questions with no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our very own brew house. And of course, all that and more here at the Mead House. But first, thanks to all of the Mead House key holders to help keep the Mead House podcast free. Hey, if you haven't been over to Patreon yet, and check that interview out with Ash Fishbein from Sap House Meadery. Now, we did that live right from the tavern over there at Sap House Meadery. And my wife and I even got a tour of the back of the house. They got quite the kitchen set up. And we saw Evan Henderson's domain. And believe me, it is his domain, and it's quite the little setup they got going there, and they put out some fantastic stuff. I'll talk about one of them here in just a second. But hey, you too can become a Mead House key holder and help support the show for just the little as $2 a month. And we do appreciate it. We've got some pretty good thank you gifts to send out to you. And of course, again, listing of keyholder only content over on Patreon. So get on over there, patreon.com, search for the Mead House, or do the easy thing. Go to themeadhouse.com, get on the show notes, and just click on the link. It's right there. So what are we drinking tonight, boys? I am double fisting it tonight. I've got a bourbon and I've got a mead. Let's start off with the bourbon. I don't know if I've talked about this one before or not. We found this one, Raven and I, on one of our travels somewhere. I don't recall where. But this is Duke. This is, and if you're thinking John Wayne, you're right. This is all about John Wayne. Now, Duke is it's a Kentucky bourbon, and his son Ethan is a curator of the whiskey, but apparently he and several others had researched John Wayne's likes and the bourbons that he drank, and they came up with a recipe that they thought best fits John Wayne's likes in a Kentucky bourbon. So it's a pretty good bourbon, honestly. I mean, for me, it's really good. I really enjoy it. And I think if you're a bourbon drinker out there, I think many of you might enjoy it. Now, the thing about this bourbon, the mash bill might surprise you. It's 75% corn. I know what you're thinking. It's going to be like eating a bourbon candy bar. Well, not necessarily. 13% rye, 12% barley. And it's the flavor. I'll tell you what I get out of it. right up front, you get a very rich vanilla flavor with a candied fruit. Now the sweetness comes up front, obviously, because of the corn. Okay, that's where a lot of the sweetness comes in whiskeys. That corn mash. As it works back on your palate, you're going to start picking up some other flavors like toffees, brown sugars, maybe a little cinnamon, maybe a little bit of clove. There's a citrus component to it, really deep if you sit with it long enough. The barrel char is amazing because it's finished in heavily charred American oak barrels. And this stuff is really, really good. This is one, I mean, if you want to fix yourself an old-fashioned, use the Duke. It's good enough for that. Or if you just want to sit quietly and sip it while you're reading a book, it's good enough for that too. Duke. It sells usually around, I've seen it anywhere from about $45 to $55. So it's an easy doer, but look into it if you're a bourbon drinker, Duke. The other fist, now I had a chance to sample a few of the meads out there at Sap House when Raven and I were out there on our big vacation. And I don't recall if I had this one or not, but this one, Jeff, I love oatmeal and raisin cookies. And I remember my grandmother, I remember standing in the kitchen on a little stool helping my grandmother make oatmeal raisin cookies. And, wasn't she, when she wasn't looking, he'd take a couple of fingers into the mixed bowl and grab a big chunk. And then, of course, afterwards, when they came out of the oven, oh my God, they were so good. In my box came, it's called Nom Nom. And this is an oatmeal cookie raisin mead from Sap House. And I want to tell you, it tastes exactly like a oatmeal raisin cookie. I don't know how in the hell they do it. I don't know where they get that oatmeal flavor from. The raisin flavor, yeah, I could see that, but it would take a crap load of raisins, I think, to come up with that deep of a raisin flavor. It's sweet, a little more than my take on it, but I tell you what, the flavor makes up for the sweetness in this one. I'm going to take another sip, Ryan, just because. Damn, I just, it blows me away how Evan and Ash and the boys out there at Sap House can perfect these flavors and nail them. I mean, this is 100% an oatmeal raisin cookie. Jeff, I know you got your box too, and I think you got a bottle of it too. Just amazing stuff.
And the last time I got an oatmeal raisin cookie bottle, I actually saved that for, I can't remember if it was Thanksgiving or Christmas with the in-laws, but that got passed around the dinner table, and that got pretty rave reviews. Everybody was over the moon at how good that was and how, oh yeah, this tastes great. And we were playing cards after dinner, and people were like, oh yeah, this is amazing. It tastes like an oatmeal cookie.
I think I'm about. I just might order a case of this stuff from Sap House and use it for Christmas gifts. I mean, this stuff is totally amazing. I just can't get over it. So, what did you put in your cup? Tell me it's the oatmeal raisin.
It is not. It is not. We did not double up this week. Although I am drinking something from my Sap House box. I cracked open the Experiment 2170 mixed berry honey wine with natural flavors. And right on the nose, oh my gosh. I get strawberry, I get blackberry, I think I get raspberry. There's definitely honey, but it is a pungent brew. And it's very nice. It's got some tartness that I have to assume is from raspberries and blackberries, and very fruity. It's one of those that I know this is not dry. because it has a body to it and it has some sweetness, but the acidity to it is really nice. It calms down the sweetness quite a bit to where it has a kind of an off-dry perceptual feel to it that is real pleasant. And it's fruit from the tip of my tongue all the way basically to that soft palate. The little honey in there, playing very nicely, but it kind of takes a backseat to the fruit. Not that that's a bad thing, because it's really fruity, really delightful, and it's not cloyingly sweet, which is, as you know, that's a deal breaker for me.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that a lot of fruit was put into this, but the balance is there that I can probably have more than one glass of this before I go, okay, that's enough. I got to tap out. In my other glass, I have a tropical Saison from Schlafly. Schlafly. I don't know how to pronounce this brewery. They're from St. Louis. This is a Saison brewed with passion fruit, it says. And it is really good. I'm a big fan of Saisons. I like some of the spicy notes you get with those, and there's that, the malty character of it still shines through, but there's also some tartness in there from the passion fruit that really plays nicely. It is definitely a secondary note. The Saison character of this is right up front, and it's real big and bad. But that passion fruit is kind of coming in there, just as a supporting actor, like, hey, I'm here too, and everything is going great. It carries its own weight, but it is not overshadowing the beery qualities that I like in this. And it's just, for a day that was like in the mid 80s today and still kind of hot out, God, it is a brilliant drink.
Wow, sounds good. I would have run down some of the aromas and flavors and everything associated with that raisin cookie thing from Sap House, but I'm telling you, man, just go out and buy an oatmeal raisin cookie, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
There's a reason they call that an oatmeal raisin cookie.
I mean, there's really no sense in running down all the different things that you pick up. I mean, it's an oatmeal raisin cookie, pure and simple. That's it. I mean, there's nothing else to explain about it. And if you're a fan of oatmeal raisin cookies, god dang, man, saphousemeadery.com. Get a bottle. Get it now. Anyway, Ryan, you didn't get a Sap House box, so I have no clue what you got in your cups tonight.
You got no clue.
No clue.
None.
None.
This is my first drink of the day. I don't know if that's something to be proud about or not, but it's
bad day. Do we have a bad day today?
I mean, now you think about it, right? Is Ryan saying this is his first drink of the day a good day or a bad day? I don't know. It's a busy day. Was downtown at the office today, and across the street I'll just cross the street, maybe down a couple blocks, is a brew pub restaurant. I mean, they're a restaurant. They brew their own beer. They do good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Called Treehouse, and was having lunch delivered today to the office. And as I was online, noticed that they had this category called curbside beer.
Curbside beer.
Curbside beer. So you click on it, and they've got these crowlers. A crowler is a 32-ounce can of beer. So
yeah.
two proper pints, or I should say 2 pints, basically, not a proper pint, 2 pints. And scrolling through, and saw that one of them was called the Honey Dunkel.
Oh.
And so I picked it up, and I thought, let's try this Honey Dunkel. It's by Freos. It's called their number 53, I think, recipe 53, Honey Dunkel. made with real Minnesota honey.
Real.
This, yeah, real Minnesota honey, and not like real cheese, like
Not like imitation
EEL.
Minnesota honey.
Yeah, right. So made with real Minnesota honey. None of that Wisconsin stuff apparently either. This sweet caramel and toffee lager is a slam dunkel, and it is gorgeous. It is mahogany in color. It's an opaque, head, just gorgeous, and exactly as they described it. It's got some sweet, some caramel, some toffee. It's got that crisp lager dunkel, finish that you'd expect. And this actually took second place in the 2019 Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild Brewers Cup.
Oh, wow.
And, there are 100 or so breweries. Let's see. Here's what I said about that category. More than 500 beers from 80 Minnesota breweries were submitted into 24 categories, and 30 BJCP judges, worked on them. I'm sure some of the folks that have been on this show were judged at that event. This got second place in the amber and dark lager category. It's a fantastic beer. Really enjoy it. I mean, now Jeff, this is one that if it showed up and somebody called it a braggot, I would believe them, because it's got the qualities of beer. It's got some honey in it. I can see both of them and really enjoy it. So it's looking good. I was going to tell you before I forget something. Do you remember? I think it was last week, maybe it was last week, maybe it was the week before. I was telling you that I kegged a beer.
Yep.
And
yeah, it was last week.
Last week,
we were quite surprised.
I'm sorry, I said beer. It was not a beer at all. Not even a braggot. It was just straight up a mead, and it was a ginger mead. And I said, I was hoping to get more lime out of it, but I had some issues, and
right.
Couldn't get anyway, had some issues, couldn't get enough lime in there, and all of this stuff. Well, I've got another party coming up, and I was like, well, what am I going to do? I thought about a lot of things here. Should I brew a lime mead and then open up the keg and put it in? Or should I open up the keg and steep in some lime, or put in some lime juice, or steep in some lime peels, or something like that? And I thought of just keeping it simple, and here's how I did it. All I did was I took a bunch of limes and I cut them into lime wedges, and I put them in a little bowl, and then I just, you just take the keg, you put it in your, squirt some in your glass, and then just put a lime wedge in it.
There you go. And
that seems, I thought about how complicated, because I know we're going to get to questions here in a minute. And that's some, sometimes we get questions like that. And I thought, this is kind of like a question, like, oh my gosh, what should I do? I don't have enough. I wanted to make a ginger lime. I didn't get enough lime. Should I brew this? Should I steep this? Should I do this? Well, it's a keg. It's been kegged. It's sitting on pressure. Why do I want to open it? Why do I want to worry about, screwing everything up? How about just, dropping a little lime wedge in the cup and calling it a day.
There you go.
And that seems to work pretty well.
There you go. I mean, I haven't quite found a lime flavored beer yet, but I mean, I like putting lime in my lagers. I mean, it doesn't have to be a Mexican lager; it can be any lager. And you're right. I mean, like I say, I haven't found a lime beer that I like. In fact, I don't think I've found a lime beer yet. So to suffice, like you say, get a lime, cut it up in little wedges, put it in a little bowl, and, I squeeze some into the glass, pour my beer in, drop the rest of the lime in, and there you go. So, lime flavored beer. So it's that simple, Good stuff, Ryan. Anything else? Got another cup there? That's it?
No, I got 32 ounces of it, so I got enough to last me the evening.
Okay, well that's your 2 glasses then.
Yeah,
that's your 2 cups. Good stuff. Well, like we said, tonight, there's something new we're going to do here at the house. We're going to devote one night each 6-week session to just doing social club. And because we get a ton of questions here, and a lot of times we get deep in thought and response, and we just can't make it through. Like last week, I think we only did like 1 or 2. So we're going to pick up where we left off, guys. If you want to follow along here, at the top, make a stupid mistake and pitched EC 1118 into a braggot. It was all I had on hand, and unfortunately finding out after the fact it won't ferment malt very well. Any potential solutions? First note. Did some Googling, searched through the sub. I think this is from Reddit. Didn't find a whole lot on the subject, and got bored waiting for some ingredients to come in. And I guess apparently he decided to make this braggot with things that he had on hand. Now, the fermentables, he says, for a 2-gallon batch was 1 pound of Briess DME and Briess, Bavarian wheat, DME, and then 1.5 pound, 1.6 pounds of Tupelo honey, 2.7 pounds of mangoes. Actually, starting out sounding pretty good. OG was at 1050. That's a good start. Estimated at 1056 from the mangoes. Probably close. Was hoping to dry it out as much as possible with the 1118. It just is, guys, without reading, this is a very long deal here. So it sounds like, Ryan, the issue is with the 1118. And that's a wine yeast. Typically, it's actually a champagne yeast, I think. It's a very hot fermenter. I mean, it's one that'll eat through sugar, lickety split, like 1116. So he may be right here, I think, Ryan, where 1118 just ain't built to eat through some of that Bavarian wheat. What's your thoughts on that? Ryan's too busy looking for that can of.
Yeah, well, it's just too tasty. One of the very first braggots I made was with EC 1118, and just like this guy or listener, it sounds like mine was a 1-gallon batch, and it had 1 pound. I think, well, I don't know how many. It might have been like. I'm gonna go back, but it wasn't a ton of malt. It was malt extract, and then and honey, and it fermented fine. I mean, it was okay. It's not like anything went wrong with it. It worked out. I ended up blending it into another braggot because I just, some of the flavors just weren't there. I don't think I did much with the hops and things like that. But anyway, the fermenting didn't seem like a problem given the amount of malt, the amount of honey I had in there. Now, it was his solution. If you don't feel like the maltose is really working through there, you could easily pitch a workhorse, a workhorse yeast on top of it. it could be something like, your SO5.
Mm-hmm.
It could be one of the Kvike strains. I mean, something that'll just
Burn through it.
Burn through it and be fine. I mean, I don't see a problem with trying that at this point and seeing what happens if it did have a if he did have kind of a stock there or some issues. But I'd like to hear what Jeff also has to think.
Yeah.
So EC1118 is a champagne yeast, and yeah, it might not preferentially ferment maltose or the grain sugars, so to speak. I'm not sure he's going to have a problem either. If I remember correctly, and this is a big if, this is so. If I remember correctly, EC1118 is glucophilic as opposed to fructophilic. And I could be very wrong in this. If I am wrong, please reach out and let me know. But maltose as a sugar is really, it's two glucose molecules stuck together. So as long as there is a way for the yeast to unstick those two, it's still in a position that it can eat that. It's probably just a little bit more complicated, a little bit more trying, but he should be okay. That said, EC1118 also does not have a kill factor. So there are some bacteria that have a kill factor to them, yes or no. And if you put a kill factor yeast in with a kill factor yes yeast, like KVU 1116, in with a yeast that is kill factor no, it will absolutely go after that, and it will take over. Nothing else in that ferment is going to go. Kill factor neutral like this, he might be able to get away with putting something like a Kvike in there, and Kvike, as we have talked about so many times before, will absolutely clean out anything at 1050, 1060, no problem. It's just a machine. So that's probably the direction I would head. If for whatever reason your local homebrew store or wherever you're buying from doesn't have Kvike, a Saison yeast, Belle Saison, or any of those Saison strains would probably be another good option there. They tend to handle a little bit higher alcohol. You could also do the Y yeast high gravity, I would think, and you'd be okay there. But honestly, I would stay the course, keep feeding it, keep watching it, and I would see what the EC1118 does for you. You might not get a lot of the ale character that you would look for in an ale yeast fermenting maltose, but it should still be okay.
There you go. All right, this next one, Jeff, I'm going to take you back to the farm. and specifically into the milking barn.
Jeez.
I know you can see it. Milk, cream, and mead for bottling. Hey, all. I'm making up a batch of chai mead recipe that I found. The basic recipe is pretty straightforward, just a spiced tea, honey left to ferment, but the final bottling step has got me confused. The recipe is calling for either milk, cream, or powdered milk to be added to the mead before bottling. I get what they're going for. Chai tea has a latte sort of deal in it. But wouldn't the dairy in the presence of even a wine level alcohol, 10, 20%? Well, okay, so he's talking about the curdling factor here. So will it last in the bottle for, okay, so here's the deal. All right, milk and alcohol, and you get cottage cheese, right? Go ahead, Jeff. I don't even know where to begin with this one.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't either, huh?
Let's put it this way. We've all had Irish cream, and we know that cream goes into Irish cream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not exactly a case that alcohol curdles milk. Otherwise, you would need a strainer to drink Irish cream.
Right.
That said, he's made a mead, and mead contains honey, and honey contains acid, and it's the acid actually, generally, that will curdle any kind of milk or cream or whatever that you're adding in there. And so my guess is, if you plug a little litmus paper in that mead before you mess with it in any case, you're going to wind up with probably something in the pH of 4 to 5, which is definitely enough to curdle up some milk. Sounds like adding milk or cream to the finished mead for bottling. Probably not a great idea.
He's looking for that. I thought it just occurred to me, Jeff. My wife is, she puts cream in her coffee. And oftentimes she'll get that other than milk product. What do they call that stuff?
Half and half?
No. It's not even a milk product. What the hell? What do they call that stuff?
Lactate?
It's something. It's a non-dairy creamer. Basically, is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, non-dairy creamer.
So non-dairy. What if you use something? I mean, you can buy that. Even different flavors of it. Would a non-dairy creamer get him to where he needs to be? My wife loves these chai teas, and there is I don't know if it's cream or milk or whatever the hell they put in it, but it's got a creamy kind of a texture to it.
Yeah, generally the finished tea is mixed with quite a good glug of milk, if I'm not mistaken, and it might be frothy milk. It kind of depends on how you prepare it, where you're getting it prepared from. But I know I've had a similar like chai latte kind of a thing where they use frothy milk in with the tea, and it gives it that very creamy flavor to it. As far as non-dairy creamers go, I don't know. I don't know if that would work or not, because the end of the day, that creamer is still a fat, and the mead is still an acid. So I have to think there's got to be something in that non-dairy creamer that acts as a emulsifier and kind of keeps the fat suspended and stretched out through the liquid rather than letting it all settle at the bottom.
Yeah,
I don't know if that would stop it from curdling or not. That's maybe something to try. It's not something I'm necessarily excited to try, but it's maybe something to try. That said, for creamy effect in a mead, I would dose heavily with lactose, because we know you can get a creamy effect from that. It has the milk-like quality because it's a milk-derived sugar, but it lacks the fat that will cause problems and curdle and do all kinds of nasty stuff. So that's the safe direction I would head, rather than try and mess with, anything that could possibly curdle in the bottle and ruin a couple caseloads of alcohol there.
Well, Ryan, put your lab coat on, dude, because you're kind of the expert here when it comes to putting weird stuff in the bottling bucket to bottle your beers and braggots and meads and stuff up. So, milk and cream in the bottling bucket. I mean, anything you want to add, or?
The first place my mind went was what Jeff said there at the end, which is lactose.
Yeah.
And do that. So that's where I'd go. I don't know if I would worry about adding, milk or cream,
non-dairy creamer.
Yeah, non-dairy
Coffee
creamer or Bailey's or Kahlua or any of those type of things.
There you go. All right, well, let's skip on down here. Tales from the New Guy. And this is a two-parter, guys. I had an amazing time with my bestie making mead, kind of showing him the ropes. We made a 1-gallon traditional, and for me, a 5-gallon traditional and a 3-gallon blackberry hibiscus. I also got a brand new oxygenator that I'm trying out. It was an amazing time. I guess part 2, then panic struck. the gasket where my bubbler goes on my 5-gallon bucket lid fell into my mead. Granted, I'm not too worried about that because I sanitized my lid with Star San, and where the bubbler Star San where the bubbler needs to go, however that makes sense. We did make an attempt to fish it out, but nada. So we decided, since I don't have an extra rubber gasket for that hole, it is for that hole is to tape seal. Okay, so it sounds like he taped up the seal around the airlock. He's trying to find a local homebrew store near him to see if he can pick up some more gaskets. They try a hardware store too. Question is, do you think one night is going to destroy the mead with my jerry-rigged setup? Jerry rigged setup. I don't think so. If it was sanitized, I mean, you're talking about a little. I think what he's talking about is the grommet that you put the airlock into. And we're talking about the plastic airlocks that you put a little bit of Star San or even liquor or a spirit or whatever in. You slap the little lid on and watch the little thing bounce up and down when the bubbles start to come out. So that little what he's calling a gasket, if it drops down in there, I mean, if it was sanitized before he did everything, I think it's going to be a problem. In fact, you could probably put a piece of tape over the top of the hole and just maybe punch a little, a couple little pinholes in it, just enough for the gas to escape. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say that's a good plan. And I'm kind of with you on that one, where really all he probably needs to do is put a little tape, make a pinhole or something. Rubber grommets are easy to source, though. I know for a fact what he really needs to do is just take a spare airlock, or hell, the airlock that he's got, if he's just got a little tape over it, to Lowe's. Go into the hardware aisle, and they've got those drawers where they keep like the metric panhead screws and the hard stuff to find that you don't always need. They've got rubber grommets of several different sizes in there, complete with a little cutout hole to fit in the bucket.
Yep.
All you need to do is find the right one to fit your airlock. And again, that's why you bring your airlock with you, so you can size it there in the store. Just hold it right up to it. You'll get a 2-pack for maybe like 75 cents, and take that home, replace it.
Yeah. That's go ahead.
I was going to say, if he's real fresh into the ferment, and the yeast is taking off okay, he probably doesn't have a lot to worry about as far as the spoilage bacteria or anything like that. The yeast is going to kind of just take over and do its thing and outcompete everything else. The thing you got to watch out for is the little bugs that are attracted to the CO2. So as long as you've got something like tape and maybe a pinhole to let the air out, you're going to severely limit the amount of access they have to those for as long as you need to get the replacement and get your airlock on there properly. So that would be my course of action there.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't take more than maybe a couple of little pinholes either. I mean, you just want to relieve the pressure. You want to keep some of the CO2, as on the top of the but you certainly want to relieve the pressure, out of the fermenter a bit. So, okay, so Ryan, we're gonna go ahead.
Oh, good. I'd say, if you're in a bind, you can, maybe take a page out of the old, yesteryear way of mead making, and just put a balloon with a pinhole on top of it.
True.
That'll get you through for the night. Sanitize a rubber balloon or little balloon and throw it right on. Put a pinhole in it, and and then throw it on over the mouth of your demijohn or carboy or whatever he's using there, and that'll get you by for the night too. you know.
Oh yeah.
And the great thing is, if the balloon's deflated, that pinhole is really kind of, it becomes a moot point, because with the balloon being limp, there's nothing really there to try to get into it.
Yeah. Or, do away with the airlock completely and get yourself a little piece of rubber hose that'll go down into that hole where you put your that grommet fits in, and then the other end into a little jug of water, and they call that a blow-off tube. I've done that before too. When an airlock failed, I just grab a piece of rubber hose. I've always kept various sizes of it here at the house, sizes enough to fit any hole in any of my anything I was fermenting in, whether it was the grommet that the airlock went in, to the hole that the grommet went in, to the entire top of a 5-gallon glass carboy. I've even got plastic tubing that big around that I just jam inside. Okay, I mean, it's big and heavy and kind of rough looking, but it works. So number of choices there, guy. Just be kind of DIY-ish and search for a solution there. All right, so this one starts out, all right, guys, I've got a weird one for you. I'm kind of used to that around here, right? I mean, this is the Mead house. Weird things happen here. I've got some honey, maybe 2 to 3 pounds left over and mixed in with some charred oak from a bourbon barrel. Here we go. Geez. I've considered blending it all up, adding some more honey, maybe bochet, and back sweetening with metafoam. I almost want to have a dark charcoal color, deep charred caramel flavor. 1, do you think this is a good idea or just silly? 2, I hope you guys are writing all this down. Do you think it will work if I follow normal procedure? What does that mean? 3, would you drink a black mead? And 4, I love where this guy's going with this stuff. 4, do you have any tips or other ideas for this? Yeah, pal, you came to the right place. Let's start off at the top up here. He's talking about leftover honey mixed in with charred oak from a bourbon barrel. That's not going to do you anything. Okay, I've talked about the jar of honey I still have up in the cupboard, sitting on. It's a jar full of oak, and then I poured honey over the top of it. It's been sitting up there for probably almost 2.5 years now, and no, it does not taste like oak flavored honey at all. So that out of the way. I don't want to, the dark charcoal, Ryan, man, he's talking about bochet and this stuff. He wants it to have a dark charcoal color and deep charred caramel flavor. Obviously you're going to get that off the bochet, right?
Right. You're going to get that off the bochet. I'm kind of pulling up here because he had quite a few of those questions. Now, the only question I have is, if he's blending, when he says mix up with charred oak from a bourbon barrel.
Not quite sure what that means.
It could mean staves. It could mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chunks of the barrel, slivers of the barrel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he might be getting some color and some tannin, off of that. And he could get some color. I doubt he's going to get any caramel flavor off of that. You're right. That would come from, the bochet honey or anything else he's doing. If you run through the rest, do you think this is a good idea or just silly? I've heard worse. Do you think it will work if I follow normal procedure? I mean, if he means, having a realistic gravity and yeast and nutrients, sure. You could, I think so. Would you drink a black mead? Interesting he says this, because I was looking at a forum a couple weeks ago, and a guy had used squid ink. I think you can buy like commercial, or you can, commercially.
You can buy it. Yeah,
squid,
you cook with
ink.
it. Yeah, you cook with it. Yeah.
And so he was going to use squid ink to make a black mead.
Mm-hmm.
We drink every other color mead. I don't know why black would bother you. And you can use squid. If this guy's using squid ink, why not? And do you have any tips or other ideas for this? Well, I always try to get back to the root of what we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Are we just trying to use up? You just have these things and you want to use them up? Or are you trying to craft a mead and this is kind of what you came with? If you're just trying to use the stuff up, again, I don't have any problem with what, go ahead, do it, let us know, write us a letter. If you're trying to create something with bouschade, honey, bourbon barrel flavor, I think that you would probably add some. Best way to do it would be to add like an oak spiral or an oak honeycomb stick, and then probably if you want bourbon, add that bourbon, or add some bourbon there. So that's there's just a couple of thoughts here with what we have.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the bouschade honey, he's talking about a caramel flavor. I would think that you want to be a little bit careful with the bouschade process, because to get to that caramel flavor, that's long before the two words that he's got before that, deep charred. If you're talking about bouschade, like, the one video that everybody has seen, where the guy's got a cast iron pot over an open fire outside and the smoke is just boiling off, and it looks like he's making roof tar. That's the deep charred bouschade. But if you want something caramel flavor, do it in a crock pot. And it'd take a few hours to get to that point, but you'll smell it, you'll know it. You can even taste it. If you're careful with it, get a white plate or a white something that you could drop little pieces on, and check your colors as you go. Honey's just like sugar. The darker the color, the more prolific the flavor is. I don't know if prolific is the right word. The more complex, maybe, the more rich, maybe, the deeper, pronounced. The flavor is going to be, and you can smell it as it turns. You'll be able to smell it, and so that's my take. I think he's got to decide whether he wants a deep charred charcoal like bouschade or whether he wants that caramel flavor. To me, Jeff, that's like two different animals there. That's like one. It's like splitting the spectrum up here a little bit. So what do you think?
Yeah. I would, if you're going to use the bourbon soaked honey, go for it. But I wouldn't expect a lot out of it, like you guys have already said. Unless those chips or whatever have been absolutely saturated with bourbon, I don't think they're going to get a lot out of it from the honey. The honey could really draw out a lot of bourbon in like a really saturated piece of wood, but just have bourbon. Save yourself the effort, and you can kind of dial in the amount of bourbon flavor you want that way too. As far as getting that deep caramel flavor, the approach you want to take, get a crock pot, set it on high, keep the lid off, and you're going to want to watch it, but we're still talking, this is your day. You're going to sit in the kitchen with your honey on the crock pot, and you're going to find something to do for it could be as long as 5 or 8 hours. If you want that really, really deep, like molasses black, but not burnt color to your honey, that's a babysitting task. That is absolutely the approach I would take for what he's looking for here. It sounds like, get a good deep color to that with a lot of caramelization going. Then, yeah, ferment. If you want to add the bourbon, I would do that while you're back sweetening with that meadow foam. I think that could be nice. Mm-hmm. And as far as drinking a black mead, yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as getting that black color, 2 things you want to do. Again, bochet that honey and take it molasses black. The other thing, if it's still not black enough, go to your homebrew store and get a product called Midnight Wheat. It's one of the adjunct grains you brew beer with, and cold soak that in spring water or something like that overnight. That has such a deep dark character that's how you make like a Schwartz beer. The lagers that are black but it still tastes like a lager, that's just coloring from Midnight Wheat.
I didn't know that.
And it doesn't take much. It's you can add a little bit, and it's apparently a very, very potent colorant. So that's how I would go with that.
Well, one thing, let me make a comment here about the bourbon thing. It seems, it's kind of my thing. I've talked about this before. If you take a bourbon, there's basically 4 main components to bourbon when you're talking flavors. One, you're talking vanilla, caramel, brown sugar, and then the barrel char. Okay, so you're looking for the first 3 in the different flavorings that, if you can work on those flavors a little bit. The barrel char obviously can come from the wood. And you can use any, levels of toasted wood that you want to, try to capture whatever sort of barrel char you want. But those 4 components, is pretty much what most people will pick out of a bourbon right off the top. So if you can concentrate on finding those flavors, now adding a bourbon, now I sit here and tell you about the bourbons I drink, and if you sit deep enough or smell deep enough, you get down to that the candied fruits and that kind of thing, the old leather chair. Well, obviously you're not going to be putting little strips of old leather down into your fermenter and none of that kind of stuff. So take it back up. Take it back down a few levels and just deal with those main components, and I think you'd be just fine. It doesn't have to be an expensive bourbon. Pick one that you like. Jack Daniel's, Maker's Mark, or not Jack Daniel's, obviously is not a bourbon, it's a whiskey, but I think those components you're looking for, you just look for that whiskey flavor, that bourbon flavor, that caramel, that brown sugar, that vanilla. And you can augment that with different levels of these sugars and vanillas too. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Email from Tyler Stout. I was wondering what your opinion is on using graham crackers to instill a pie crust flavor in a mead. We should have had Evan on to tell us how he did this oatmeal cookie, because the same question probably fits right here. Evan, how did you get that oatmeal cookie? How'd you get that dough? How'd you get that dough flavor? Because I can taste it. I absolutely can taste it. Okay. He says he hadn't tried it yet, but I want a graham cracker profile in my next batch, Ryan. People who have used it seem to be way on the one side of the fence or the other. Some insist that flavor is great, whereas others have told me it required too much racking, wasted too much product, and sometimes floated to the top and got nasty. Any tips and tricks? Maybe an alternative idea to impart a similar flavor. Looking for a pie crust flavor in a mead, Ryan.
A pie crust flavor in there. All right. Well, I mean, if you think about a graham cracker, and there's a few different recipes out there for graham crackers, but typically they're sweet, so you've got sugar, sometimes some of those graham crackers have, we'll say, honey in them. They got like a touch of honey, and then you've got a little bit of vanilla and cinnamon, are really there, and then usually also some of those like larger sugar crystals, on the top. But so what you're trying to say is, okay, and then there's the flour in there. So how can I get some of those ingredients in that? Well, if you deconstruct that a little bit, I'm always the guy who likes to deconstruct things. I'd start with a steeping malt that has, because again, Evan's limited, right? He can't have grain on the premises.
Right.
So, he's probably got to get even more creative. But for those of us who can have grain on the premises, I would start by finding a really bready malt. And there's a lot out there that will give you some of that. I'm blanking on some of my, some of those that'll
like biscuit.
Jeff, I'm sure is gonna biscuit. Yeah. Jeff will probably come up with a couple while he's here, and I'll give him an extra minute. But or the other way I like to sneak in some of this texture and flavor is also with oats. So use your rolled oats or things like flaked oats, and steep those in. They'll give you some really good texture and some good flavor. But I think some other grains would help you as well there. And then I would add, in cinnamon somehow, and find some cinnamon in secondary most likely. And then I would also do a little bit of vanilla. I mean, if you can afford a bean these days, I'd put in some vanilla. Again, like maybe with the cinnamon, you're kind of keeping those into secondary. And then lastly, you've got to keep it a little bit on the sweet side, because remember, now if you dry this all out, you're not going to have all the flavors. I mean, there's graham crackers are a little sweet, so I do that. And then lastly, because we're making a drink here, I also think a little bit of oak is going to really help you out here. I think a little bit of oak is going to help you out, because we're not trying to make a graham cracker in a glass. We're trying to make a drink, a really pleasant drink that reminds us of a graham cracker or brings a graham cracker to mind. I think a little bit of oak is going to help you there to allow you to be a little bit sweeter than you need to without getting cloying. And I think lastly that it's also going to remind you that you're still having a drink versus, again, a liquid graham cracker.
Kind of the same way I was describing the bourbon thing. I mean, it's not, you're not trying to make a bourbon flavored mead. It's more you're looking for those components, something to remind you of bourbon. And that's why I say, if you can deal with the four basics, the vanilla, the caramel, the brown sugar, the barrel char, if you can mimic those things using other things, without having because let me tell you something, the soaking of the wood in the bourbon doesn't quite get you there a whole lot. I believe me, I've done it. You're better off just adding the bourbon. But anyway, Jeff, let's stick with pie crust here.
Sure.
I mean, not the pie crust, the
graham cracker.
Well, I guess he's still a pie crust flavor in the mead, but he's talking about that graham cracker crust. I mean, you find those in what, like cream pies and or cheesecake. That's something, cheesecakes. So maybe it's that flavor he's looking for.
Could be. So here's how I would approach it. And like Ryan hit on, I think the easiest way to do it is to steep some grains. Like he mentioned, biscuit is a great option. Victory is another one that has a good
Victory. That's
kind of a biscuity, kind of crackery kind of a character to it. You might even throw in, if you're going to make it more complex, biscuit, Victory, and a little bit of special roast or special B. That could be interesting. I would also, when we're talking about like adding some flavors in secondary, I would not hesitate to throw in a small amount, not a really overpowering amount, but a small amount of cinnamon and a small amount of ginger to kind of just punch up those graham crackery notes as opposed to, weedy notes. Another thing you can do for the consistency and mouthfeel side of that, especially, what is graham cracker made from? Primarily, that's wheat. That's just
true. Yeah,
that's a less processed kind of a wheat flour, if I'm not mistaken. I would try steeping some flaked wheat too, and that's when they make a flaked grain, they pass that through hot rollers and gelatinize some of those sugars. So you get some of those that become unfermentable, and that gives you more body. It gives you a little bit more creamy flavor to it. So that could be nice as an adjunct there too. I would try a mix of those and see where that gets me. That's kind of the direction I would head there.
Sounds good. That actually sounds pretty darn good. So, Tyler Stout, love your name there, dude. Tyler Stout. Hope you picked up on that and make good use of that info. Moving on here, guys. I should. Do I have a sound for that? Let's see. No, I guess not. What was that? Try that. Oh, no. Guess I don't. I lost all my pre-programmed sounds. Anyway, Braggot Troubles. I should come up with a little da-da on the effects board. Braggot Troubles started a batch of Braggot 2 days ago. Now, this is going to be kind of a lengthy one, too. Started a batch of Braggot 2 days ago, and the bubble stopped in my airlock. I haven't had good luck making Braggot. And then okay, I got to decipher this a little bit. I haven't had any luck making a Braggot. And he's wondering if this batch is okay. All right, Jeff, I'm reading where he might have had a couple of screwed up batches of Braggot, and sounds like this one is too. Right. So started off at 10:30, a little on the low side, but that's okay. Haven't measured it since I pitched it. Ingredients were just meadowsweet, yarrow, juniper berries, and some grains, and about a pound or so of honey. Roughly a gallon and a half. I don't want to do large batches because of the cost, so obviously this is a small batch. Did a reading and it dropped to 1.00. Just to be safe, he decided to bottle it because of past mishaps and flat products. If it turns out well, I'll try letting it go a little longer and try to squeeze out a little more alcohol.
How much more alcohol can you get from that?
Like 998. What's that amount to?
You can go lower than 1 in a ferment when it ferments dry, because alcohol is less dense than water. And the more alcohol you put into a brew, the lower you can go with that, essentially, because you've got more alcohol skewing those results. Yeah. But if your starting gravity is 1030, you don't have that much alcohol to start with.
Yeah.
I think he's done. He's just done.
Yeah. you know, yeah, I think he's done. I mean, when you get down to that point, now it doesn't say. I don't know what yeast he used. That's the only thing. So I mean, we have no idea what. I mean, it would help if. Here's the thing, guys. When you post in forums and when you are seeking out information and you're asking questions, and it's about something that you're going to make or you're in the process, make sure you put the entire recipe in, all of the proper amounts, all of your numbers, your outgoing gravity numbers, what yeast you used, what temperature you're fermenting at,
what you were jamming to when you mixed it up. I mean, all the information you can provide helps.
Yeah, what your expectations are in the end. That's a big help when we tackle questions like this, because honestly, Ryan, I don't even know where to go with this one. Just man, I was a little concerned about the 1030 to start with, then now it's down to 100, and he wants to get more alcohol out of it. I'm not quite sure where he wants to go with this.
Well, I think that the question is, I'm wondering if this batch is screwed up, right? And everything else, I mean, is just talking about the question. The question is, I'm wondering if this batch is screwed up. Look, if you started at 1030 and you're at 1,000, and you bottled it, and you're wondering if you're safe. Yeah, I definitely, I think you're okay. I think you're safe. I think your fermentation is pretty much done. I don't think if you put the grains in there, the grains are going to get much below that. Mm-hmm. The only question is, he says, the only thing I'll say is, he said, I've had mishaps and flat products. Okay, well, flat. I mean, do you mean carbonation flat, or do you mean like kind of a flat one note flavor, right? Assuming he means carbonation, and I have no reason to think he does. That's just what I want to talk about. Is that you'd probably need to add a little bit of priming sugar here, because I don't think you're going to get, even if there is a little bit left gas in the tank, I don't think you're going to get much to get your braggot carbonated here. But I don't know. I don't have a problem. Jeff, what would you think about an ultra low, session strength braggot? How would you think one of those would fare in the competition?
With the right flavors, I think it would be okay. I mean, it's not like we carry any of that, like a mass spectrometer or something that can accurately gauge how much alcohol is in a finished mead, especially if there's like residual sugar or anything like that in it. So, I mean, how are we going to know whether it's a session mead or not, other than what you tell us? If the flavors it's good, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, what I just mean is, you think you're going to have enough body. It's a lot harder to develop a lot of body with, a 3%, 3% all, braggot versus an 8% braggot.
This is true. And to that extent, he also says he added grains, but he doesn't say how he steeped them or what percentage there were. So there's a lot of kind of if factors there that I'm not sure about. Yes, it could work. And realistically, if you've got something as light as this probably is, with, very low body, I want the other flavors to be more delicate as well. I want the balance to be there, to be like, oh yeah, there's a little bit of herbal flavor and there's some this and that, but it's all very light and pleasant and drinkable. I think that could be okay. That could be real nice. The lavender blossom that I made, very light, very delicate mead. I liked it very well, even though it is really light body. I don't think there's necessarily a downside to that as long as you're approaching it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But delicate flavors are tricky because it takes a gentle but firm guiding hand to get that right.
Interesting combination: meadowsweet, yarrow, juniper berries, some grains. Gosh, I wish I'd known. I would have known what grains he used, and what kind of honey, pound or so of honey. I guess that would. Well, I don't know. Meadowsweet is not. That's not a honey. That's a. Is that a plant?
Right. That's an herb.
Yeah.
It has the Berliner Weiss that has kind of been taking a lot of the sour beer category by storm lately because it's light and it has a lot of it's sour, it's light, and it goes well with fruit. They used to make a syrup with meadowsweet and basically like a ton of sugar, and that was like the primary adjunct that you added to a Berliner Weiss before they went crazy with all the different fruits and stuff to it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's nice.
Interesting.
I could see it working.
Oh God, I just looked down the list. Oh my God. I don't know if we'll get there tonight, but oh my God. All right. So you guys seeing on the list what I'm seeing down there near the bottom? Holy cow.
Yeah, I think
really? So. Really? We're going to go there? All right.
Well, we might get there. We might not.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Too Much Clarity Kavik. Hiya had a session batch fermented not long ago with Omega Hothead. It's one of my favorites. Kavik strain. Tastes really nice. After a week of bottle conditioning, the batch hasn't got a bubble in the bottles. I didn't have a chance to bottle after fermentation. As a result, the yeast dropped crystal clear down to the bottom of the bucket. Would you suggest pitching some neutral wine or ale yeast for carbonation in every bottle? Well, let's ask the bottle conditioner king here at the house. Ryan, what do you think's going on here?
Conditioner king, huh?
Yeah.
Well, just remember to, rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So,
the guy that puts weird stuff in his bottling bucket just to get the carbonation. So.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because he said he bottled it for a week after bottle conditioning for a week. The batch hasn't got a bubble in the bottle. A week can be on the short side, but I wouldn't. If proper, this is a little bit interesting because if you've got the right amount of priming sugar in there, usually a week can be on the short side, but I've bottle conditioned, with Kvike, just, so I fermented with it and bottle conditioned with it. And I mean, it was like in just a matter of days, it had, conditioned. All right. So, I didn't have a chance to bottle after fermentation. As a result, the yeast dropped crystal clear down to the bottom of the bucket. I think he means like right after fermentation was complete, because obviously he had to bottle after fermentation was done. I think he just means like right after. So the everything dropped. It was very clear. What he's saying here is he was bottle conditioning very, very, very clear beer, or clear mead. I guess. Would you suggest pitching some neutral wine or ale yeast for a carbonation in every bottle? Well, you've got a couple of choices here, and it depends on what your situation is. Again, assuming that you had the right kind of priming sugar in there, you could make up a solution of, say you took a slurry I guess, let's say you see 1118 and you made a yeast slurry 1118, and then you sanitize like an eyedropper, and you wanted to open up every bottle and put one drop of slurry, into that bottle and then recap it right away. I mean, take it off, drop it in, recap it. You could do that. I mean, it would be, it could be a little bit of a process, but that, I think that might be the easiest, cleanest option. Now,
what about those little fizz tabs, or what, don't they make little tablets that you can drop in the bottle itself, or is that not
those are called carbon. Usually, they're one of the types called carbonation drops. It's basically a piece of hard candy, that's just the right size for amount of sugar to carbonate a bottle. But it shouldn't have yeast on it. It's really just the sugar that you're dropping in there. I'm sorry, I'm getting caught up on the fact of why this didn't condition, over a week. Maybe give it one more week, and if it still hasn't, then maybe consider, making up a slurry and getting an eyedropper and putting a drop in those bottles and then recapping them. But also check your notes and make sure you did priming sugar. Make sure you put enough priming sugar in there, because that's a little perplexing. I don't often get them that are, very
well,
stump me, but it could.
Back to the 1 week thing, I don't bottle condition, but I did one time. But I have read about it, and much of what I read about bottle conditioning suggests that you let them sit in a cool place for anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. So 1 week, this may be a little bit too early yet. Now, after 3 or 4 weeks, Ryan or Jeff, either one of you, then maybe I would start to worry if I got absolutely zero, the little psst you hear when the bottle top comes off.
Right.
I mean, what do you think, Jeff?
Well,
I just think 1 week is too short.
Yeah, and it is fairly short. The Kvike is aggressive, so I wouldn't put it past it to be able to bottle carbonate in a week. But by the same token, the question is, hey, my beer got really, really clear, or my mead or whatever, and now it's not carbonating right. That doesn't mean there was no yeast in it, because remember, yeast are microorganisms. Most of the yeast might have gone dormant, but there will still be yeast in solution. It may take a little while for that colony to get up to where it's chewing through all that sugar that you put in there for priming purposes before it really hits. I would absolutely say, yeah, let's give it another week or two. And in fact, you're priming on Kvike, so we're in August now. I'd stick those bottles you're priming in your garage or on your back porch or somewhere hot, because Kvike can handle it.
Yeah,
and that might kick up the colony a little bit faster and get you there a little bit better. So I'd try that. Like Ryan said, make sure you've got enough priming sugar there in the first place. Give yourself some time, another couple weeks, maybe in a warmer temperature like your garage, your back porch, wherever's convenient, that you're going to get up into the 80s, because again, Kvike can handle that real easily. So I'd try that first before trying to re-inoculate or add any kind of extra priming sugar or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. Roasted yerba mate. Oh God, have you guys ever had yerba mate? Ryan, you ever tasted that yerba mate?
Yeah, my next door neighbor is the wife. I guess there's a husband and wife. The wife is Chilean. She's born and raised in Chile, and they are all about the yerba mate tea. They've even got the the special cups and the silver straws and all those things that you drink a real yerba mate out of. So I am familiar with it, and
okay.
But let's see how to make it. Let's see where this question goes.
Yeah, so I'm curious if anyone has put some roasted yerba mate, is that how you say it, in their brew before. In their brew before. I'm a professional kombucha brewer. Is there a such thing as a professional kombucha brewer? Anyway, professional
commercial.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I guess you're right, huh? I'm a professional kombucha brewer, so I'm well versed in tea and the resulting flavors with acetic acid fermentation. I think roasted yerba mate would be a complementary flavor to traditional honey flavor to a traditional something about with the honey characteristics. It would also add some tannins as a bonus. Let me know your thoughts, Jeff. I mean,
so
yerba mate.
I've had it in an energy drink, which is probably not a pure form and probably not reasonably like a good approximation of how that is supposed to taste when you're drinking it with little silver straws and special cups and everything. If I understand correctly, though, it is at its heart a kind of a tea, and it's probably not the same like tea plant that you make black tea and green tea and the it's probably a different plant, but the same process here applies, where we're taking a hot fermentation to create a beverage, and I think it would work. I think it'd be worth a try. I have played with doing tea process on a lot of different tea blends and herbal ingredients and things like that, and been pretty pleased with the results. And based on the energy drink that I had, I could see that probably tasting good with honey, I guess. So in theory, it sounds sound.
My only association with yerba mate. The wife and I actually I wondered what that stuff was, and I asked my wife if she'd ever had any. She said no. I said, "Well, do you know what it is?" She said no. Well, I didn't either. So let's buy a can. Okay. So we brought it home, stuck it in the refrigerator for a couple hours, got it out, and took a sip. Okay, this is going to sound really ugly. To me, it was like regurgitated kangaroo puke siphoned through one of Jeff's old socks. That's all I'm going to say about that. So, yerba mate, Ryan, would you put that in a mead? Not my mead. Your mead?
I think you could. I think you could work it into a mead very well. You'd probably want to introduce some of the tea. I'm thinking in secondary here, because you do it primary. During the primary fermentation, you'd probably blow off a lot of the good flavors and delicacy. And you'd want to keep an eye on it, because you wouldn't want to, the longer the tea is in there, the more vegetal flavors you'd probably pick up. So I think that you may want to do one of two things. You may want to either do a traditional, like he's talking about, and then steep in some yerba mate. Or here's what I don't know. I don't know if yerba mate will steep cold the way that like black tea will. If you're going to make you can cold steep black tea, or you can cold steep hibiscus, herbal tea, things like that. But if it's not, I mean, maybe it's something that just doesn't do that. Then you may want to make a tea, the actual tea. Make the hot tea, and add that. Now, here's the twist: if it's something that is significantly different flavor-wise, hot versus cold, the hot steeps or hot crude versus the cold, you might want to use that for all of the water. You do that, make just a huge batch of tea, and then add your honey to that when it cools down, and then ferment. The reason I say that is I've seen some herbal teas or herbal tea meads. And the best way that I've had some herbal tea mead is when all of the liquid in the entire mead is a tea, essentially. Make a 5-gallon batch of tea and then ferment that. Like you would a sizer, right? You're making a sizer, all the liquid is apple juice, or should be anyway. So anyway, that's a couple of different thoughts on how you might approach it. I'm not going to say if how good of an idea it is, a great idea or a bad idea. I'm just saying if you want to do this idea, those are two ways that I think about the idea.
There you go. All right. And I'm trying to string things along here a little bit because I think I'm going to save that second to the next one until next week because we're close on time here. Let's do this last one here. Accidentally froze my mead. So, yeah, cold crash didn't go so great. No mess was made and no explosions. My mead turned into a slushy, basically, and I'm worried if this will affect my flavor at all once it's warmed back up to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't imagine anything would be ruined, but could this cause off flavors? One, Jeff, gosh, I wish you would have continued the full freeze thing and then did a freeze distillation of it. Don't know what flavors he's talking about here, but gosh, that's one thing he could have done with it, right?
Well, yes and no. I mean, so to answer his main question, no, there's really not any off flavors you can get from over crashing or over chilling your mead. And in point of fact, I've accidentally made a slushy mead before and kind of enjoyed it. I just put it in a little daiquiri glass and enjoyed it, and just fine. If it's that cold, it's got to be that much sweeter for you to be able to taste it. But if there are plenty of people that do slushy wines in the winter, or then Jeff, in the summer, for refreshing purposes, and it works out okay. Really, no, I don't think you have anything to worry about. You're still going to get the same effect from the cold crash of kind of pushing the yeast down to make a nice little yeast cake at the bottom, and you've got stuff frozen and it's a little slushy now, but when it warms back up, you'll be fine. When it comes to freeze distillation, you could try it. I've tried it. The problem with freeze distillation is that
you get so little out of it, right?
Well, the only thing you're pulling out is water. Yeah. And if you've got a great tasting mead, you can intensify all those flavors. The problem is if you've got a little bit of stuff that's already causing off flavors, you didn't have great nutrition, or you let it sit on the yeast for a little too long, and you got some bitter flavors, you're going to magnify those too, in addition to the alcohol. So it's all hanging out there.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you finish your thought. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just said there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, okay. So quickly, Ryan, frozen mead. Have you ever poured a mead into one of those gizmo things you see at 7-Eleven and add some blue food coloring to it and call it a raspberry mead? Or you ever done anything like that?
Oh, yeah, the old slushy machine.
Yeah.
I have frozen a couple of meads before. one intentionally and one not intentionally. The one intentionally, I did do a freeze, like a freeze distillation. I froze it and then I froze it in a bottling bucket, and then I put a hose in the bottling bucket, and then as it thawed, I had it run in, the run into a carboy, and then I was going to go oak it and go from there.
Yeah.
So I did do that. But that was intentional. Now the unintentional one, I wanted to chill it down, and I put it in the chest freezer, and then I kind of got tied up, and it stayed in the chest freezer too long. I did thaw it out, and I did not. It was traditional, and I did not get any off flavors. Didn't experience any off flavors. Didn't experience anything like this guy. No cracking of the carboy, no mess, no spill, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you're gonna have an issue. The only question I'd have is, where were you in the fermentation process? Were you had it started yet? Were you done? Were you halfway? Do you need to get going? And I just keep an eye that if, let's just say you're halfway through your fermentation, well, he said he cold pressed. So I assume he was done with his fermentation. So that's a moot point.
Yeah.
So if he's done his fermentation, he was cold crashing. He's gonna thaw it out. He's rack it off. I think you're right. You're gonna be fine. I don't think there's gonna be anything that's too bad in there.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's be all right. After all, he didn't add anything to it. The freezing process is just, like making a Mead ice cube. What the hell? I think it'd be just fine. So, gosh, we ended that just in time, guys. You look at the next one. See the next one? You see that? We'll tackle that one next. Yeah, we'll tackle that one next week. So we're going to drop it right here for the night. Hey, that was a lot of fun doing all the social club here tonight. Gosh, we covered a lot of topics here with all these questions. So we're going to call it a night with that one. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with us in this episode. And if you want to get on the show, it's really easy. All you got to do is let us know what you're brewing. You just send us an email, info@themeadhouse.com, or do the message thing on that Facebook deal or the Twitter thing. Both of those at the Mead House, and we'll set up a date and get you on and talk about your brewing projects. But hey, in the meantime, happy mead making. That's going to be it for this episode. Ryan, flip the lights off. Jeff slammed the door shut. I think we got a new key. Hey, we'll see you next week for episode 207 here at the house. We're gone.